This video was made possible by Skillshare. Start learning new skills for free for 2 months by being one of the first 1,000 to sign up at the link in the description. Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Half as Sports. I'm your host Sam, and today we're here to watch a match between a reasonably interesting story about a football team abandoning its home city in the dead of night and a bunch of mediocre jokes that will continually interrupt the story. Will the information pull through, or will the jokes obscure them enough that everyone stops watching? There's only one way to find out, right here on Tuesday Night YouTube. Or maybe Nebula. So, back in the 1980s, the football team that is now the Indianapolis Colts was the Baltimore Colts, and they were owned by a man named Robert Irsay, who I can't show you a picture of because they're all copyrighted, so just imagine if Herbert Hoover and Babe Ruth had a baby who was very old and very angry. The Colts played their games in Memorial Stadium, which was a complicated venue. On the one hand, it was a bad stadium, but on the other hand, it was not a good stadium. 10,000 seats had bad views, 20,000 seats were outdated benches with no back support, 7,000 seats were just crappy bleachers that got moved in for football games, and all the seats were located in a state whose flag looks like the way having a seizure feels. To solve the first three of those problems, Baltimore's city planners proposed something called the Baltodome, which disappointingly was not going to be an enormous concave monument to the world's second best movie about Siberian Huskies, but instead a $78 million new stadium capable of holding up to 70,000 fans. The plan was supported by the Colts owner, the Baltimore Orioles, the governor of Maryland, the mayor of Baltimore, and even the stock photo baby, but the Maryland legislature didn't approve the project, and in 1974, Baltimore's comptroller, Hyman Pressman, even got an amendment to the city's charter passed that banned the use of any city funds to build a new stadium in Baltimore. A surprisingly bold move for a man with a name as silly as comptroller Hyman Pressman. By March of 1984, tensions between Irsay and the city of Baltimore over a new stadium had gotten so bad that the NFL's owners voted to give the Colts permission to move to another city. But the good people of Baltimore were desperate to keep their football team because, after all, we all love to do the thing where we link our self-worth to how well the people wearing shirts with the name of the place we live in kick, carry, or throw the ball into that bit at the end of the field. So, the state legislature decided to take drastic measures using eminent domain, which is the government's ability to seize private property for public use, to legally prevent Irsay from moving the Colts out of Baltimore. It was a pretty bold move. After all, seizing a football team probably wasn't what James Madison had in mind when he put eminent domain into the Fifth Amendment, but on the other hand, the amendments are dumb. Just ask all the soldiers outside your house demanding to live there. Anyways, on March 27, 1984, the Maryland State Senate passed a law giving Baltimore the right to seize ownership of the Colts just because he wanted it, which the Maryland House was expected to pass within the next 2 days when the governor would sign it. Was this a thing the government should be doing? Most certainly not, but since when have we started caring about silly things like abuses of power? So, in response, Robert Irsay decided to do the reasonable thing. He decided to smuggle an entire NFL team out of Baltimore in the middle of the night, like it was the plans to the Death Star. Indianapolis, Indiana had, for years, desperately been trying to transform into a, quote, great American city. They already had a Cracker Barrel, a Hampton Inn and Suites, and an annual event where cars turn left 800 times, so all they were missing was a football team. Conveniently, they'd already broken ground on a massive stadium called the Hoosier Dome in 1982 before they had any guarantee of a football team moving there, which is all to say that, on March 28, 1984, when Irsay called the mayor of Indianapolis to discuss the Colts moving there, it was basically like asking Hank Green to excitedly explain how anglerfish reproduce while using a lot of jump cuts. They'd spent years preparing for someone to ask that very question. The Indianapolis mayor offered the Colts the use of the Hoosier Dome, a $4 million training complex, a $12.5 million loan, and a single tendered kiss on the cheek, and Robert Irsay accepted. Then, just like in any totally above-board political arrangement, they told absolutely no one what had just happened. Out of fear that the state legislature would accelerate the seizure of the Colts, at 10 p.m. that night, Irsay had a friend who ran a moving company quietly send 15 tractor trailers to the Colts facility, where they loaded up the team and all their belongings, and then drove through the night, with each tractor trailer taking a different route from Baltimore to Indianapolis to throw off the Maryland State Police should they try to detain the team. They were then met at the border by the Indiana State Police, who escorted them to Indianapolis, where they arrived at 6 a.m., having completed the most audacious heist since Ocean's 12 scamming into buying a $14 movie ticket. Later that day, the Maryland State House passed the law to seize the Colts, and the governor signed it, but of course, it was too late. The people of Baltimore were, of course, devastated to have lost their football team, but football would ultimately return to the city 12 years later, in 1996, when the Cleveland Browns did an actually kind of similar thing and abandoned Cleveland to move to Baltimore, changing their name to the Ravens in honor of the poem by Baltimore's own Edgar Allan Poe, because nothing strikes fear into the hearts of opposing football teams like allusions to narrative poetry. If you're interested in smuggling a football team out of a city in the dead of night before the state government can figure out what you're doing, you're going to need to be efficient about it. And you might find it useful then to up your productivity by taking my friend Thomas Frank's excellent productivity masterclass, which is available now on Skillshare. He'll teach you how to build a productivity system for yourself so that you can spend more time doing the things you want to do. Even if you're already an efficiency whiz, Skillshare will have something for you. It's got thousands of classes for creatives to take their skills up a notch in everything from writing to business to photography to animation. There are options for any skill level, and the classes have short lessons to fit into any schedule. To get 2 months for free, just be one of the first 1,000 to sign up at the link in the description.